It's so masterfully woven that it doesn't feel like, oh, a callback. It doesn't feel like you're at the end of the play and you're like,
Right.
oh, she tied that knot up. Because it's not tied up, but there's a familiarity to it. There's a nostalgic joy to it.
Hello and welcome back to No Script, an unscripted conversation about theater's best scripts. I'm Jacob, and I'm excited to welcome you back to another special summer episode. Today I'm not joined by Jackson. For these special summer episodes, we often have guests, and today I'm welcomed by three awesome guests, the biggest group we've ever had for No Script Podcast. These three wonderful guests are here from Red Door Productions to tell us about their production of Crimes of the Heart by Beth Henley. We will tell you all about that production, where you can get your tickets, where you can see the show, as well as have a fabulous conversation about the script here in just a moment. But first, I would like to introduce and welcome Eve Bianco, Anna Radice-Morras, and Violet Levinson to the podcast.
Hello.
Welcome, friends.
Hi.
We're so glad to have you
here.
all. Good, great. Well, we're excited about what we have coming. This conversation, we will. I'm going to give all of you your time in the sun or the spotlight, and I'll tell the audience all about you and your wonderful work and your bios so far. But just on the front end, Crimes of the Heart by Beth Henley. This is a very exciting project. Maybe you just want to. We'll have a lot of time to talk about this, but just like sneak peek, sneak preview. What is the most exciting thing to you all about this? I mean, this is a famous American play that you're working on. What really jazzes you up here as our sneak peek of the conversation to come?
Well, I'll take it away. Violet and I, we came across this play at school. We went to the Lee Strasberg School together, and we very quickly gravitated towards these three sisters and what is a very bad week for the three of them. We've been summing it up essentially. Yeah, the eldest is turning 30 alone, the middle one's come back from Hollywood with broken dreams, and the youngest has shot her husband. So it's a bit of a messy week for the three of them. But what's so wonderful is that they all come together in their family home, and it's hilarious, it's sad. They go over all the trials and tribulations of their life. Bad things have happened to them, but they sort of face the world with such resilience and spiritus that you can't help but smile and root for them. It's a really wonderful play. We're so excited to be doing it.
Yeah, and just to add on that as well, sort of the way Beth Henley plays with tragedy and comedy, like if you don't cry, you might laugh. And I don't know, it's kind of the way she deals with that is particularly sort of poignant and I think resonates with all of us. And sort of, these characters are so meaty, so having the chance to play them is very special under the direction of Eve, which is great.
And I would just add to both of those great way to talk about the script. I would say that for me too, it's exciting to revisit a play that focuses on women and female relationships, and having the male characters be on the periphery rather than having the female characters on the periphery and or female characters as written by the way men understand females and their relationships.
Yeah.
So to me, that's particularly not only timely but universal and exciting.
Yeah, well, those are three, I think, really insightful sort of dives into the script from one way or the other. The question about family, the question about tragedy and comedy in this script is so wild. And then the really substantive fact of this being one of the most famous American plays written by a female playwright about female relationships. Crimes of the Heart has been produced obviously thousands of times and around the world. and remains that just even as I was rereading it this time for the umpteenth time that I've read Crimes of the Heart, coming back to like just some of the startling images that I mean, the image of Babe coming in with the thing around her neck still surprised me. And I mean, I know that that's in the play, and it still surprises me. It's powerful images. This should be a blast. Let me give the audience just a quick introduction to each of you all, and then hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about Red Door Productions on the other side. Eve Bianco is the director of this production. Eve is a Juilliard-trained actor, teacher, and writer. Eve's directing credits include All in the Timing, Love Story in Three Phases, An Evening of Selected Works by Jose Rivera, A Midsummer's Night's Dream, Macbeth, and The Winter's Tale. She teaches at HB Studio and has also served as associate director on Velvet Rage, a queer-ass play, and Lysistrata. Anna Radice-Morras is the producer, co-founder of Red Door Productions, and she is in this production as Meg. We have two of the actors here with us and the director, so we've got a lot of great expertise about this play and working on it in the room. Anna is playing Meg. Anna is an English-Spanish actress based in New York, trained at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute. She has appeared in several indie short films and holds stage credits across off-Broadway and off-Broadway, including lead roles in Edward Allan Baker's Up, Down, Strange, Charmed, Beauty and Truth, Alan Ball's Five Women Wearing the Same Dress, and Anton Chekhov's The Bear. She also performed in Catatonic at New York Theater Festival, and she is currently playing Meg. She's the co-founder of Red Door Productions, and we will hear about that in just a moment. Violet Levinson is also with us. She is also producer and co-founder of Red Door Productions, and she is in Crimes of the Heart as Babe. Violet Levinson is an English actor based in New York. She trained in London at Lambda, earning a grade 8 distinction in performing arts, and later completed a one-year conservatory at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute, where she studied method acting. Violet has acted and produced in plays in both England and New York. She assisted Kitty Bromsky on Dennis McIntyre's modded... Ooh, you're going to have to help me with this one, Violet. What is it?
Oh, it's called Oh, sorry, it's jump in there. It's called Modigliani, yeah, by Dennis McIntyre.
Fabulous.
The Italian artist.
At the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. She's made her off-Broadway debut in Edward Allan Baker's Up, Down, Strange, Charmed, Beauty, and Truth at the Flea Theater, which she also co-produced, followed by her off-Broadway debut in Alan Ball's Five Women Wearing the Same Dress. She most recently played Debbie Irons in Face Divided, and is set to play, and is of course playing now, or will be in July, Babe in Crimes of the Heart. Okay, so it's a very strange. Our guests on the podcast always weird moment and experience to hear your own bio read aloud while you're on the other end. It's always just the most strange thing. I want to hear a little bit about Red Door Productions before we talk about the performance and the production in particular. Tell us about your theater and what you want to do and how this fits into that.
Sure. Yeah. So Red Door Productions as a whole, it was started formally in 2025 towards the end of the year. And it was founded by 5 actors who met at the Lee Strasberg School. We're all international. We've got 3 Brits, including myself and Violet, 1 French and 1 German. And we built it initially as a way to create jobs for ourselves. I mean, in this industry, as we know, it can be very difficult to land a role at all, let alone a role in a production that you feel very passionately about, that you love, that is a great piece of theatre. So we thought, alongside doing all the auditions for Broadway productions, for movies, let's get out and let's make some stuff ourselves. That was really how it started. Violet and I started informally. We put on Up, Down, Strange, Charm, Beauty and Truth by Edward Allan Baker. That was in June of 2025.
Yeah.
And that went really, really well. And we kind of got a taste of what that life could be like. I think that standing ovation at the end, having worked on these amazing meaty roles, having all our friends and family come watch us, it really gave us this kick to keep doing this. And so we formally made the company with these 3 other ladies, and we put on our first play as an ensemble in December of 2025. That was 5 Women Wearing the Same Dress. And again, we absolutely loved it. And it sort of has become a thing now where, although we do act in a lot of the things that we put on, we also now really like producing. So we've started producing other people's work. We've had people from school come up to us and ask us for assistance in putting on their own roles. We very recently did that last month with the play Dolores by Edward Allan Baker. We helped two incredibly fantastic ladies put on this play, and it was really, really fun. So, I mean, we came at it from the angle of making our own work, and that is always going to be our priority, but we're now really enjoying helping other people do the same. So it's shifting, and we're sort of going on a journey with it and going in all these different directions, and it's really exciting. We're really enjoying it.
Yeah, and also I think kind of our work focuses a lot on sort of human relationships. I think if we realized it initially or not, and like Edward Allan Baker's work is very much sort of, I guess, like the volatility of relationships and being all these sort of international artists coming to New York to go to Lee Strasberg. There's obviously like moments of loneliness and trying to find our feet, and so I think human relationships and the volatility that comes with that is definitely a theme we touch upon regularly in our shows.
Well, human relationships and the volatility that comes with them it could be the tagline of Crimes of the Heart. So that sounds like
Definitely.
Yeah.
the right project for you all, at least
Yeah.
in my understanding. Well, hey, the audience who wants to see Crimes of the Heart produced by Red Door Productions, you can do so at Theater 154 on Christopher Street in New York City. It opens July 15 and has like a 2-weekend run. Is that right?
Yeah, so we opened July 15th and we closed July 26th. And we our show opens on a Wednesday and it runs through to Sunday. And on both Sundays we have a matinee performance. And the other days are evening. Which is exciting. So a 10-night run, basically.
We've got the ticket link is in the show notes. It's probably also in the social media posts that if you're coming to us as an audience member that you got to us somehow, you can find that. But if people wanted to learn more, is there an easy place they could go? A good social media channel or website somewhere where they could check you out?
Yeah, definitely. We've got our social media page, which is at red_door productions. And on there, you'll have a lot of great information of what we've been working on and also the play as a whole. We've done some fantastic photo shoots. We've got some great
The pictures
ideas
that
for
I saw
videos.
are really cool.
Yeah, well, we've got to shout out our amazing photographer. He's at Gallery by Eve. He is fantastic. We had a really fun day shooting these photos, everyone dressed up in character. But yeah, there's a lot of that kind of content to see on our social media.
That's awesome. Yeah, so folks can check out the social media pages for that. I'm excited to dive into the kind of the meat of the conversation here. Real quick, I want to just invite our audience to check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/noscriptpodcast. All one word, no hyphens, no underscores. That's where you can become a supporter of the show. Patreon is a monthly amount that you can give to support the running of the podcast. The lowest amount is $1 a month, $12 over the course of the year. Even that is very, very helpful to make episodes like this and our whole season-long in-depth script conversations come to life. We've been going since 2018, and we have been doing that really because of the financial support of our awesome Patreon community. That's you. Big thank you to you. This conversation is only possible because you are supporting this podcast. That's not you yet. We just encourage you to check it out. Patreon.com/noscriptpodcast. And now back to the script. Hey, okay, so normally on this podcast, I do an overview of like the history of the script, its development and productions, as well as kind of basic synopsis of the plot. I will say that we've already done a conversation about Crimes of the Heart. We have an episode which Jackson and I chatted about the script. I was just listening to it earlier to kind of remind myself where we landed. So anybody in our audience who is interested in checking out more about the history of the script, its development, and things like that, there will also be a link to our previous conversation about Crimes of the Heart, so you can check that out. So I'm going to skip that part of our normal podcast schedule because I'm so excited to dive into these great folks that we have with us today. So I think I would like to start, Eve, and maybe I want to start here because I'm a director, and so director questions always fascinate me the most. I mean, you're stepping in to direct really one of the more famous plays, certainly American plays. That is always to me like I directed Jesus Christ Superstar like about a year ago. When you do a one like that where people really know this story, they have a sense of its characters, they have a sense of what they think it should be. There's always I don't know, I get nervous working on more well-known stuff than I do more obscure stuff. So I'm curious your thoughts on taking on this. I mean, Crimes of the Heart is an American classic in every
Well,
sense of
first I
that
wanted to
phrase.
say thanks for terrifying me. I hadn't really, I hadn't really gone down that road, but I'll be thinking of you at 3 o'clock this morning. So, so thank you. I guess the way I'm approaching it is, or have been approaching it, is the way I approach all scripts, with the idea that I'm learning it for the first time, even if it's something that I've known for a long time. And a big part of that is because I'm working this group. It's the first time this group has done it. This group of actors with me. So it is new and fresh because of what this particular entity of energy of people bring to it. So I really do start always like a baby, like audience. Like I don't know this play. I remove any preconceived ideas about it, or as to the best of my ability, and we start from day one, discovering it together, with this group of people, rather than trying to live up to some idea of some other production or some idea that I've read in a analysis book or critiques. I mean, I'm an actor also, and when I'm acting, I don't watch other productions. I try really to just keep the slate as clean as possible, and that way I'm not so terrified, or I don't feel like I'm trying to live up to something or make something that other people are expecting. I guess, I don't know if that was kind of long-winded, but that's the way I'm approaching it. But it's the way I approach everything, which is I really want to hear what the actors what their point of view is about what's happening. I mean, obviously, as director, I will shape it, and I'll make sure that the overarching narrative exists in the story, and that there aren't giant holes, and people are standing in light. But I genuinely want to learn the script with the actors as collaborators, not as dictator.
Is there a particular discovery you've had in this process that surprised you, something you didn't anticipate on the front end that comes out of that great trying to stay present with this script, with this group of actors kind of methodology?
Well, I just one. I mean, I feel like every rehearsal we're
Yeah, well, that's
sorry.
a point.
Yeah, I feel like every rehearsal I'm learning new things, and as the actors stumble their way at the beginning, we're at the beginning of the process. So as we stumble our way through this really awkward phase of rehearsal, where nobody really knows what's happening and nobody knows their lines really, but sort of, and and we're working dialect. We're every day there's discoveries and thoughts and things that come to me based on what they bring to the room. So one thing, I guess, the thing that is really occurring to me, I guess, and I don't know if this is, the thing that's really has been occurring to me is the heart of this love that these three sisters have for each other. And I can't, and then now I'm going to sound like a real theater nerd, so apologies, but I guess you are too, or you wouldn't have this podcast.
You're in the right place.
But, I mean, not to be too obvious, but there's so many, not comparisons, but there's so many, what's the word I'm looking for? Things that align, like from the play The Three Sisters, just in terms of the central three sisters and this cousin who could be like the Natasha character, and these men who really are at the periphery, but they come and go, and there is an ease to the house in terms of it being a communal space rather than a private space, even though there's very private conversations happening. So that's something that has really occurred to me for the first time this time. And also, yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing that has really been affecting the way I'm seeing the play right now, is how the similarities, I guess, how much it aligns with that play.
That's a really interesting comparison. And one of the things that happens in Chekhov is that you get these extended sequences of people doing fairly mundane things all throughout the Chekhovian plays, and that's the sort of one area of interest for me in this script, at least as I was coming through it this time through reading it. How many extended sequences of very mundane actions are called for? The making of the lemonade, the
making
combing
of coffee,
of the hair,
the eating of
things
chocolate,
like that are,
the cracking of nuts, the like. And so I guess I'm already looking for opportunities for the life that exists around the words, rather, even though the words are beautiful and super important, obviously, and we have to say them all, and we have to say them in the right order, and but it is Chekhovian in that it's the life that is existing around the words, and not just in the words. So that's been a real focus. I'm taking.
I was reading through my copy of the script, and it's a digital one, so it has the little page count tracker at the top. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting to the end of the play, but seems like I got a ton of pages left. And then I got to the end, and I was like, oh, the next 10 pages are the props list. And it's so extensive.
It's a home.
It's a very material play in that way, yeah?
Family, generations long home. And the history of the family, the history of the home, the history of the community is embedded in the script. And, again, not to be too nerdy, but I'm just going to shout out Carol Rosenfeld, who is like one of the greatest acting teachers and artists and actors in the world, and happens to be my mentor. She talks about props, and she says that, stage managers and people outside call them props, but for actors, they're the stuff of characters' lives, and this is their life, this is their home, and the fact that they all just want to be in this home having a moment of joy together amongst their familial stuff is really simple and yet super profound and really moving. It's the simplicity of that I find particularly beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. That's really profound. You talk about like characters with such deep history and part of a town and a community and a region of the country that has this really deep history. Violet and Anna, I'm curious from the perspective of actors who are playing characters where their histories are not just like details that make the characters rich, but they're intrinsic to the reasons why they take the actions that they take, and they motivate the story as it's happening now. I mean, Anna, I'm thinking about Meg and the story about her and Doc that is part of her lived history that becomes part of the present tense action of this play. Amidst all the other stuff that happens, there's almost this subplot that's the Meg and Doc subplot.
Yeah. That's always one of my favorite parts about working on a new character. It's really building that backstory, and you're given all these fun clues throughout the written material, but then it's up to you as the actor to use these clues to build something that feels incredible, that is very real. And the way that I work, and I think I can speak for you as well, Violet, because we trained in a similar way, is that we loved going deep into these backstories. We both buy journals for each character that we play, and we do diary entries, and we really live in that moment of particular pivotal life situations. Some that are suggested by the playwright, for example, dad leaving home, mum dying, but then other things that maybe aren't sort of dropped into the script. Maybe the first time that I kiss someone, or all these little things that kind of build up a character to make them into this very real person. And it's been such a joy to do that with Meg, because there's so much there. And yeah, these things that she's gone through, I mean, they're pretty dramatic at points, but I've really enjoyed the more mundane creation of stories as well.
Yeah, there's so much in this play that happens off stage. And I mean, to
Yeah.
some degree, that's going to be true of most plays ever. But it occurs to me that, like, for each of the sisters, if you were to try to just say, here's what the story is in terms of the time, the 48-hour time constraint of the play, here's the story. Most of the stuff that they talk about and do and would kind of fill up the plot details is stuff that happens off stage. I mean,
Yeah.
Violet, the whole thing with Babe and her husband is like the audience doesn't ever really get any kind of glimpse of that. They never meet the husband. All we get are these other hand reports of how all this business is going down.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And I think like obviously, Beth is sort of a master writer and she even though, Zachary isn't physically on stage, you feel his presence.
He gets phone
And
calls, yeah.
the phone calls, yeah, and his sort of Snoopy sister, you really feel like all this pressure and weight on Babe's shoulders, and yeah, so yeah, I mean, obviously their relationship is it's so sad because Babe was married off at 18 and it soon became like an abusive marriage and
There's a great
I think
line that I
Eve.
caught this time through that Babe is talking about her wedding photo when she was 18, and they say, "Oh, look at how
Mm,
happy you look." And she says, "Well, I was
mm.
drunk." They
Yeah,
got me
all
drunk.
the champagne punch can make anyone,
Yeah.
obviously. But no, but Babe is happy, and like that's something that Eve, will continually tell me in rehearsals. Like she is a very, she's happy. She's at home with her sisters. Like life is good. Obviously, the life outside the home is pretty turbulent. Might be going off to jail, all these things. But like, I think it's really important to remember like the simplicity of it all, and like being with her two sisters is that's a really happy time for her, even if the world around her is sort of
Well, and sorry, I
shattering
don't mean to
slightly.
jump in, but I think it's really important to remember that these three women are so full of hope. They're so optimistic, and I mean, the
Yeah.
play begins with wishes on a candle, and it ends with wishes on a candle. It doesn't end with giving up. It doesn't end with sorrow. There is a bittersweetness to it. There is a like, well, what will tomorrow bring? But they're not focused on it. They really are focused on their hopes and this idea of the three of them finding joy together. And so, I think I have felt it's very important as we work on the play that because the characters don't give into the the sorrow and the trauma, we can't either. We can't force them to live a life that they don't do. They don't live that way. Even Meg, like they don't live it like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's tremendous. Yeah, and speaking of the ending, thinking about maybe a question for the group, a lot of the story items or the various threads of the play are kind of unresolved when we get to that final image of the birthday cake. What's going to happen with the health of their grandfather? We don't know at that point. We have maybe an indication. Somebody says that Zachary is nervous about the results of the, how the case is going to work out. And so maybe that hints that it's going to resolve well, but we don't really know. We know that Lenny is going to meet her, her potential partner, but we don't know how that is going to go. What's going to happen with Meg's career in Los Angeles that has gone, badly recently. There's so many of these things that make up what we would describe as the story don't really resolve.
Like life.
But we get this other kind of resolution, this image around the cake.
I was just didn't mean to interrupt, but that's life. We don't know tomorrow.
Yeah.
We don't know tomorrow, even if we think we do. And so, I mean, I think that's part of it.
And that kind of moment sorry, Eve, just that moment at the end when like it's kind of, them just sort of throwing cake and sort of smiling. It's so sentimental, and it's like kind of a flashback to their childhood. And, it's just kind of to enjoy that moment and to be very present in that moment. Yeah.
It is such a brilliant image of the three of them around the cake and the candles, because it resolves like two earlier kinds of things. One of them I think I've known, and I think is a good clean reading of the script. Obviously it opens with the birthday candle that Lenny tries to light for herself in the cookie, and it falls apart and she's alone. And so the full birthday cake that's purchased by her sisters that they share together is a beautiful kind of completion and resolution of that. But one of the other things that stuck out to me reading through the script this time is the story they tell about their mom's funeral, and how one of the things their grandpa did is took them out to like a diner and told them that he was going to get them banana splits for breakfast. And then they could eat these banana splits for breakfast until they're sick, basically, is how they tell the story. And I caught just a line that just stuck out to me for whatever reason this time through. When they come to the end, they say that they're going to have cake for breakfast. And that struck me like, oh, this is also kind of a resolution to that moment that they had with their grandfather after the funeral too. This like sort of dessert for breakfast kind of a callback or allusion.
100%. And I think it's so masterfully woven that it doesn't feel like, oh, a callback. It doesn't feel like you're at the end of the play and you're like,
right,
oh, she tied that knot up. Because it's not tied up, but there's a familiarity to it. There's a nostalgic joy to it, and yet it feels different than how that breakfast was, because they're doing it for themselves instead of the grandfather, in all his wisdom, trying to. He didn't know how to help these girls with what they were dealing with. I don't know that I could do a better job than he did, especially if you consider that time, that place, that like all of that. And Meg even says at one point, Grandpa, he always tried to make us feel better, but it always ended up with us turning green and getting sick. And this is them giving that to themselves and to each other, which is for me what makes it different than just a callback to that breakfast after their mom died. It's that they're doing it for themselves and each other.
Yeah, Violet and Anna, do you have any? What's the importance of that story to these sisters in your mind? I mean, there is a sense in which they capture the stories from their lives, and we learn a lot about their histories and their lives across the course of the play. And certainly a lot of it is really hard, and yet it also has these kind of funny pictures. I mean, that's a story about their mom's funeral, who had committed suicide tragically, and in it is the story about eating banana splits until they throw up. I mean, there's this just sort of juxtaposition in that story.
Yeah, totally. I mean, to me, this speaks to like the wider play. I think Beth Henley does a remarkable job of writing sibling relationships. I've never had sisters, but I've got a brother, and there's so many moments throughout that completely mirror my relationship with my brother. It will be talking about these memories from long ago, good and bad, finding the humor in even the bad moments, and then having this lovely moment together, and then suddenly fighting about something, and then that turning again into something different. It's just like the twisty turns of a sibling relationship. She does so remarkably. So I think, yeah, I think that kind of links to it. It's This is the first time that the three of them have been together in a long time. So there is that sort of shared moment of coming back together, feeling nostalgic, talking about the past, focusing on what feelings are being brought up now in the moment. It feels very sibling to me.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think also just to add there, like one bit that always gets me is when Lenny and Babe tell Meg about their granddaddy getting having a stroke, and how they just can't stop laughing. And that's just like such a, I think that happens so often in reality when like awful things happen. Sometimes they're so shocking, or just you just can't help but laugh. And I think that she sort of just, Beth balances that so with such realness. I think is what I'm looking for. It feels very real, and
And
yeah,
that's especially interesting coming from the actor playing Babe, because one of the things that Babe does is keep a scrapbook of her life, obviously, as many people do. But what might be somewhat unusual is that Babe's scrapbook isn't just like highlights. She puts in all of the events, or whatever document of the events of her life, including the bad stuff. And what happens during the action of the play is that she clips the newspaper articles about her attempted murder of her husband to put in her scrapbook. I'm curious about that, and your sense of that role, maybe in the script or in Babe's character, this unusual use of scrapbooks.
well, I love the idea that like her scrapbook doesn't just show the best parts of her life. It's a true account of what she has gone through. I think I love that line, and I think like Eve said to me once about how Babe really goes to the beat of her own drum. So like for Babe, that's that for her, that's her perspective on things. And it might not be everyone's perspective to put a picture of a time that you shot your husband, if that were to ever happen to anyone else. But like it's
Right.
just for her, it's her truth and how she wants to document her life.
And how she wants to remember her life too.
Well, I think she says it's an accurate record, I think is her phrase. Like,
Yeah.
I want to keep an accurate record, which always think is an interesting way to think about
Oh
remembering.
no, I was
life.
just
Sorry,
going to add
Eve,
that
yeah,
I
your
don't think
thoughts.
Babe is upset or horrified by the fact that she shot him. She's fine with it.
No.
She's not
Yeah.
like you would think, oh my God, like when you think about it, domestic violence, shooting your husband, it sounds so, and it is. I'm not trying to minimize that experience for people, but like it's so tragic, but it doesn't seem like Babe is thinking of it tragically. She says, going to jail is going to be a relief. And she's like, it's going to be so fun. I'm going to play the saxophone, and I don't have to deal with my husband or his sister. So, like, I don't know that she judges her life experiences with the same meter markers as other people from the outside might. And I think that's true for all the sisters, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to get to the other sisters, because I think Meg tells Doc this story about what has happened to her in Los Angeles, and the kind of mental breakdown, I guess would be one way to describe it.
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, at least in the action that we see, Doc's the only one that gets that story.
Yes.
I'm curious about that. Why? I mean, the other sisters, we learn a lot about them, and really in context of them telling each other about what's going on. But Meg feels like maybe the more secret. She seems to have the most secrets, in part just because she lives away.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking about that story.
Yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about that a lot today, and I'm still very much in the exploration process of why why does Meg tell certain people certain things? I think she's someone who keeps her cards close to her chest. I think she's someone who, I mean, this relationship between her and Dog is fascinating to me. I think he's someone who she allows herself to be vulnerable around. They have this shared history that is pretty remarkable. I think there's maybe also an element of Meg did something pretty awful to Doc. He's seen the worst of her possible. Maybe there's a sense of freedom in that now she can say anything around him. Maybe he brings her a sense of comfortability that she doesn't have with anyone else. Maybe she feels responsible for her sisters, so can't be seen as weak, but with him she's able to. There's all these different avenues that I want to explore in our rehearsal room. Because yeah, Eve's great at encouraging us to try all these different things and see what works, see what sticks. And there's no way of really knowing what does until you try it. So yeah, we're doing a lot of that.
Eve, do you have any thoughts on that story? There's so many things that stick out to me every time I reread a script, and for whatever reason, this time through that one, and the fact that Doc's the one she tells.
Well, I think she tries to drop, I do think Meg drops hints to the other sisters, and they don't they don't ask her to, like, she keeps saying, well, not since Christmas, not since Christmas. And nobody says, like, well, what happened at Christmas? Nobody says it. But Doc actually asks her about herself in a way that that I think allows for it. I think also, you know, what Anna just said is really interesting, that he's seen her at the worst and still stays around, and there's something to that. I think there's also something to the connection of first love that 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 is indescribable, and it doesn't make sense, and yet, you know, you'll run into that person a million years later, and you'll be and you're like, we know each other, even if it's, I mean, I'm 1,000 years old, and I ran into my boyfriend from high school, and I'm just like, I know him more than anybody, even though I know, like, he's different, I'm different, we've had whole lives, marriages, like, but there is something to that also. And I think, yeah, I think the mental health issues in this family are significant and real, and they're always swimming at the outskirts of everything. And I think the sisters, because of their mother, I think they all avoid the conversation about mental health whenever they can. And so I think there's also an element for Meg, it's not that it's not safe to talk to them about that, but maybe it would just be too hard for them to talk about it. And yeah, I think there's something to that as well.
Something Eve said early on in the rehearsal process was, often when you're sort of traumatized, you get stunted at that age. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to mention about the sisters. I think, like, we're all we all feel very young, and like we haven't maybe quite grown up. And you know, that reminded me on the talk of mental health and things like that.
Yeah, and the mental health, you know, questions in this play, it's always difficult with a play that's not written like in our current time, using our current language about mental health to try to sort of back read understandings that we have now on it. But it did strike me as you were telling us the story at the very beginning of our conversation, I think it was Anna, talked about how, you know, the sisters in this play are having a very bad week. And that's a, you know, one phrase, but one of the phrases that they say over and over in the play is having a bad day. And this
Yes.
idea of having a bad day, but obviously the phrase bad day means something more than like I might mean it if I had a flat tire. there's some bigger contextual meaning of what a bad day means in context of depression or anxiety or suicidal ideation or things like that. There's this, it seems like these sisters have this shared understanding of this is what a bad day, this is what I mean when I say that
Yeah,
phrase.
you're right. It's that I do love that. And there's this great line at the end that Meg says. She says, "We've just got to learn how to get through these real bad days. It's becoming a thing in our family." Something
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
it's great because it's almost like this sort of slow skirting around the topic of mental health. It's like getting close to it but can't actually name it for what it is. It's, yeah, finding other words to talk about it because they don't have maybe the vocabulary to really talk about what depression and mental health is. It was a very different time, you know. People weren't talking about it in the same way that we are now. So I've always found that interesting, finding different ways to explore that topic without outright naming it.
Yeah, although I am gonna just, I don't disagree, but I am gonna just offer like an alternate thought about it, which is like when people have mental health issues in a family, it's not like, I don't know, reality TV where everybody is constantly talking seriously about their mental health. It's not like group therapy all the time. Even today, right? We don't sit around and be like, oh, my depression is really high today, and so I don't know, at least in my life experience, there isn't, people don't really talk as if they're in group therapy. And I think this, is proliferation the right word? Of an inundation of oversharing and over talking through everything on TV and in shows makes it feel like that's how people really do talk. And I don't think that really is so much how people talk. And that doesn't mean they don't take things seriously. It doesn't mean that they're not dealing with serious things and supporting one another. But like, I have family members that are quite close with depression, and it's not like we sit around talking about their depression a lot. And they'll say like, yeah, I'm not having a great day. And I know what that means.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like, yeah, I think like the 1970s, depression wasn't really dealt with how it is now, and so there was a huge fear of it. Like, if I'm depressed, does that mean I'm crazy? I'm not normal. And I think like a lot of these, I think these sisters, their mum, dying, and it's all over the news. They've been kind of shamed, and apparently they're embarrassing by chick and all these things. And so if they show an ounce of that sort of similar depressive, I guess, qualities, that's shameful, or that's all these things. So it's an interesting kind of theme that kind of, it's almost like a cloud that goes over them, but they try and sort of.
And I also
push
do want to
past.
add that women, and it even happens in the play, and it still happens a little bit today, not quite as much, but it still happens, that when women have mental health issues, the men in their lives hospitalize them, put them away. I mean, Arthur Miller wrote a fantastic play about it even, called The Last Yankee. It's a real thing for women in particular, that they are institutionalized when they have so-called weaknesses or mental health issues. And I think, and Zachary even threatens Babe with that. So it's, that too is a very real thing for women to have dealt with, especially at that time.
Yeah, I thank you for bringing that up. And the threat that Zachary levels to Babe, by telephone, that he might institutionalize her. And of course, Meg is someone who's coming out of being institutionalized. And there's, and as you have said, Anna and Violet, they live with this kind of shadow of not just like they know what happened, but their community. And in fact, they said the thing that happened to their mother was national news, for a while. And I love that you quoted that line that Meg says about getting through the bad days. But one of the things that strikes me too about that line is like, in all actuality, they have been getting through the bad days, right? It's not just a
Totally.
future oriented thing. Like the three of them are still here and still alive despite the bad days, right? And they've made this connection back together again.
Yeah, and it kind of links back to what, Eve was saying at the start about hope. It always,
Yeah.
it's about hope and ends on hope and starts with hope. Yeah.
Hope. That feels like a great button for this conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all so much. That's great. Crimes of the Heart. Many people have talked about Crimes of the Heart, but it's always great to bring in folks that are, really working on the script, in the weeds of the story and the characters and things like that. It's just tremendous. Again, you can see Crimes of the Heart produced by Red Door Productions in New York City, at Theater 154 on Christopher Street. It opens July 15th and runs through the 26th. Tickets will be throughout our various social media posts about this episode, as well as in the show notes. And you can check out Red Door Productions' social media pages as well for a way in to access those ticket links. Last thoughts, last encouragements for folks to go see the show?
Ooh, big question to end us
It's a
on.
beautiful, beautiful group of people, inside and out, bringing their life experiences to add a familiar but new and refreshing way of experiencing this play.
Fabulous. Well, I have been joined today by Eve Bianco, Anna Radice-Morras, and Violet Levinson. Thanks for joining me, you all. This has been No Script Podcast. If you've enjoyed this conversation, you can continue to chat about Crimes of the Heart by Beth Henley, or about the Red Door Productions production of Crimes of the Heart. You can tag us on social media at No Script Podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, all those places to further the conversation there. You can also shoot us an email, noscriptpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to have a conversation with you there. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you enjoyed our past season, or looking forward to our season to come, please recommend us to your family, your friends, anybody you know that likes conversations about theater, about writing, about acting, storytelling, all that stuff. Send us our way. We think they will like No Script, the podcast. Until next time, I am Jacob, and we will see you when our season begins again, somewhere around the start of the school year. Till then, this has been No Script, the podcast.